Here at the Düsseldorf Boat Show, Wellcraft is back with a new addition to its Explorer line, and like its bigger sibling, the 38 Explorer that we sea trialled last summer, this new boat is all about lots of pace, lots of performance, lots of very dynamic styling, and according to the manufacturers, plenty of versatility. This is the all-new Wellcraft 28 Explorer. Now, as you can see, it shares several key features with the larger boat. We've got that very elegant and very trendy these days, Plumb bow. Quite a fine entry, twin-stepped hull. We've got kind of split rubbing strakes, high and low, looks very dynamic. Makes a little space for a port side door at the back end. And if we move around to the transom and take a little look at the engines, that's quite interesting too. What we have here on the showboat is a single 300. You can go for a 250 instead, or a 350, or you can expand the space for the engines, go with a twin rig of 200s instead, in which case you're looking at speeds approaching 50 knots. But apparently even with this single 300 it should be good for 40, 41 knots. And certainly with the single rig, there's loads of space for these big angled swim platforms on either side. A swim ladder on the port side, shore power to starboard, a nice little transom gate here, asymmetrical layout to make best use of space. And as we step into that cockpit, well, it's relatively simplistic. All we get on this particular show model is a transverse bench, big enough, I'd say, to seat 3 or 4 people at a push, but there are options. You can swap this for a fishing setup, or you can also swap it for a kind of Axopar style aft cabin that extends out from the aft bulkhead of this superstructure and shares a little of the space beneath that aft bench to create a second cabin back here, which you can access either from the cockpit or from inside. But what we'll do now is just head along the port side deck past this side gate that we just spotted. Taking care, I think, to notice how elevated these gunnels are. It feels tremendously secure, and so do the fixtures and fittings. It's really high quality. Good to see this, a little boarding step built into the bulwark there on the port side. Same, of course, on the starboard side. Sunken cleats. As I say, the steel works very good. The quality of finish, excellent. We'll scoot past the doors on the side of the superstructure and pop ourselves in at the bow, because this is a particularly interesting place to be. More interesting, you would say, than the cockpit, in fact, particularly given the setup on this particular showboat. Now, what we have here is essentially a U-shaped seating section with permanent forward-facing lounge seats and a forward-facing seat built into the front edge of the console. We also have a table under there, which you can, of course, lift up and use as a social sort of party zone. But what we have here is the infill popped on top of that and sunken into that zone to expand the sunbed. We have a pair of cup holders on either side as well. Plus the depth, again, even in the bow of the mouldings, means that we've got proper permanent backrests. It's a really comfortable and safe feeling place to sit, particularly if you've got a young family. Up in the forepeak, if I lift this up, all is very workmanlike. As you can see, we've got the anchor on that pretty stem and a couple of slots on either side there of the windlass for some small fenders. It's good to see a dedicated spot for those. But what I'm particularly interested in up in the bow is the bow cabin, which is accessed by means of these seats. In order to get in there, we've just got to pop round the starboard side and hit this button. And once we do so, you can simply lift this unit. And as you can see, what we get in here appears to be nothing more than quite a generous heads compartment, but it's much, much cleverer than you think. So basically, this panel on the leading edge of the console folds down above that toilet, and then these steps fold down into that gap, and there's some ready-built pull-out cushions that fill that section. So once you've completed that transformation, and it only really takes about 20 seconds, you've got a very serviceable double bed up here in the bow, complete with a little window in the leading edge of this moulding. So actually you get a decent bit of natural light as well. But in this configuration, of course, we've got the toilet down there with plenty of space to use it. And we've also got, believe it or not, if I lift this little lid on the port side, space for a tiny little sink as well. There's another unit on the starboard side if I swing myself around, but that, it would appear, is just for the storage of knickknacks, bits and bobs, perhaps soap. It's by no means a big space, but the way they've leveraged every inch of it is extraordinarily clever. Well, let's shut that back down now and head back down the starboard side deck and hang a little right into the pilot house itself now. Now, as you can see, it's not huge, and it was never going to be. You can't expect too much because this is, after all, a 28-foot boat with really pretty generous side decks. The space is very much at a premium. But what we do get in here works. The start of that is an aft bench, a permanent aft bench facing forward, big enough for 3 people. Plenty of visibility and brightness there, windows all round, and a decent size of manual sunroof up top. Ahead of that aft bench we get a couple of helm seats with bolsters sliding forward and after, and of course if you slide them forward you can also rotate them to face aft, just to feel a little bit more sociable with the people on that aft bench and to share a meal. But you can also hinge up that unit because they sit on a lid on this base, and when you do so they split quite neatly on either side of the throttle, just in case you've got the engine running. And beneath there you expose a very small galley, well, a wet bar really, just a single gas burner and a sink, supplemented in this case with an optional fridge in the seat base as well. But if we just take a little look again at that aft bench, this of course is where you would get access into the aft cabin should you choose to reconfigure that cockpit to enable this boat to sleep 4 people instead of 2. As for the helm position itself, well, the wheel is on the starboard side and it's quite intimate, but that fore and aft movement of the seat certainly enables you to get up close with the touch points. That's quite fortunate because this is not an adjustable wheel. We do have the bow thruster there, a good size of plotter directly ahead of us, an optional second plotter on the starboard side to keep the co-pilot involved, and a decent bit of switchgear as well. Matte dash fabrics, a good overhang to minimise glare, the compass in the centre there. And what I particularly like here actually, aside from the fact of course that on a walk around model like this you get such excellent access to those side decks and really good access to those boarding points and the tying off points and everything else, is the fact that they don't mind a bit of simplicity, because as on the 38 we've got little holes here, little cutouts, and they're basically vents that funnel fresh air through from the leading edge of that screen through a couple of holes in the superstructure, just to keep you cool when you get up to speed and underway. As I say, performance ought to be very strong indeed. And it's also quite welcome that the options list enables you just to tweak the cruising capabilities of this boat, just to overnight a little longer in a bit more comfort. So obviously we have the cabin forward and the optional cabin aft, but in addition to that you can upgrade the standard 340 litre fuel tank to 530 litres just to extend your range and to stay independent of shoreside facilities for a little bit longer. So there we have it. That is the new Wellcraft 28 Explorer. As intimated, it is fast, it is very dynamic in terms of its styling, and it is surprisingly versatile for such a compact boat. It does also come in an open T-top configuration like the 28 we see here, but I would suspect that most UK boaters and certainly most MBY readers will be more interested in the Explorer variant, which I personally enjoy very much. Now, if you've got something you'd like to say about this new 28 Explorer, please do leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.